this week's Really Big Fan Podcast. I am your host, ChZuck. I am joined this week, as always, by my co-host, ACRONYM.
Do I do it again?
Voila!
Okay.
That's how we start the show now.
No, it's not.
It's canon. It's how the show starts.
This is a canon event, and I'm going to create a falling in the universe because I did that.
Exactly. Miguel is going to be very angry at you.
He can be very angry at me if he wants. No, I'm not really horny for a cartoon, to be honest with you.
No?
There are a lot of people that are, but I don't. There's something about it being a cartoon that I completely disconnected in like sexual mindset.
In that way, you are still a normal human being.
Yeah,
the rest
like
of us see a sexy cartoon and are like, hey.
Yeah, no, I don't really get that way. I'm like, I've had a crush on Dimitri when I was a kid from Anastasia, but that is the only time.
Interesting.
But like, other than that, like, there's never been like. I've definitely never had sexual feelings toward the Robin Hood fox. Like, you guys always yell furries.
Yeah, Robin Hood
Nope.
invented furries.
Yep, that never did anything for me.
Robin Hood invented furries, and then it was reinforced through our 80s cartoons. It's funny that we're having this conversation because that is what our guest is going to talk about.
I mean, she's not talking about being horny about cartoons. We're just talking about cartoons.
No, we're saving that for the Really Big Fan Pod After Dark.
Is Justin just going to be the co-host on that?
I guess so, because we haven't even discussed it, but I feel like you're already like, no, I'm uncomfortable with this.
Yeah,
I'm
this is weird.
It's just going to be me and Justin talking about dirty stuff.
I can't even walk in a sex shop with you without feeling uncomfortable. So, like, I don't think that
the way you said that is like it's my fault. That
No. I literally I am so, like, weird about it. Like, I'm not even a prude necessarily, but I feel, like, awkward walking into a sex shop at any given point. They had to drag me every time I went with, like, Amanda.
Sure.
One time I went with Greg. It was weird.
Well, that's what you said is I can't walk into a sex shop with you without. I was like, oh, so it's
no, it's not your fault. No.
All right. Well, we're warmed up here, so let's get into it. Let's get into the headlines.
That was really gross.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, starting off the headlines with kind of a sad headline. Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario, was announced earlier this week that he will no longer be the voice of Mario.
Well, he is getting
going
up
forward.
there.
Yeah, he
Stuff,
says
so.
he's stepping back from recording character voices and will become a Mario ambassador,
Aw,
traveling the world sharing the joy of Mario
that's awesome.
and interacting with fans. I feel like that would be more work, not
Probably.
less work.
Probably, but maybe it's just like, I mean, maybe they also are going to move somebody else in that's younger or whatever, and they're doing it while he's still alive. And
This
getting
better
the
not be how they
whatever.
replace Mario with Chris Pratt.
Ew, that would be disgusting.
Awful.
Like, never. No, don't do that.
The next Mario game is a fully voiced Mario, and it's just friggin' Chris Pratt.
I think I will hate Mario after that. There is a clip on our Facebook page that I did share of him playing Mario. Like, he was playing
The game?
itself, and
Nice.
he's doing the voices as he's
Woohoo!
playing. Yeah, he's a, it's me, I'm Mario. Woo,
That's-
Mario Odyssey. And it's really freaking cute.
That's
so
amazing. That's
if
what I
you-
was going to say. Which Mario was it? Was it Odyssey?
I think it was Odyssey that he
That's
was
fun.
playing. So if you want to see that clip, go to our Facebook page.
Excellent. Excellent. If you had to recast Mario, would you make any hard decisions? Would you I don't know, make him a hardcore Brooklyn guy with a cigarette voice?
I don't think that you should change something that's not broken.
Yeah.
I think he's perfect the way he is. And if you're going to have somebody do it, he's going to have to imitate the other guy.
You hear Mario, you are perfect the way you are.
Yes.
AEW's fight or AEW's All In is coming up this weekend.
Yes.
And they announced as part of All In that starting Thursday, they're adding the Stadium Stampede mode to the Fight Forever game.
I'm just staring at your computer because of
Where Sting is?
Yeah, it's just showing
Sting
his
is-
eyes. That's
Sting is
very terrifying.
Peeking over the thing.
Sorry, I got distracted.
Yeah, as of Thursday, August 24th, you can play Fight Forever mode, and it's kind of like Fortnite. You start with 30 wrestlers in a arena, and then the last man standing, the last man that is still has an energy bar wins.
Oh, geez.
And you can do all sorts of crazy stuff.
Okay.
There's a really funny video of Tony Khan promoting it, and then Eddie Kingston walks into frame, and he just wants to talk shit about Claudio Castagnoli. It's like, yeah, whatever, play the game. Claudio, I'm going to be up in you.
Oh, jeez. Eddie Kingston, you were a gem.
He is. Absolutely. There's also a convention going on right now. I believe it's in Japan called Gamescom, where they announce a bunch of stuff or show trailers of things. And one of the things that they've showed is that the PlayStation Portal, which is a kind of a portable version where you can stream your PlayStation 5 as long as you have a very nice Wi-Fi connection, is going to be $200, and it looks basically like a controller with a screen in the middle, just like the Switch.
Okay.
But it's not like the Switch in that like you get a dock and you put it in and you have a PlayStation 5. Like you have to have a PS5 and then spend an additional $200 on this thing.
The PlayStation 5 is already expensive enough.
So expensive.
There's no. I'm gonna poo-poo that idea.
Yeah. And like I was just I don't remember where I saw it, but like the PlayStation 4 that I have is actually the slim version of the PlayStation 4. Like the original PlayStation 4s were huge, like this PlayStation 5 is. And I'm like, I wonder when the slim version of the 5 is coming out and how much they can drop the price on that shit.
I wonder if they're just going to not even have the tech to make a 5. Like,
yeah, a slim version of the 5.
Yeah, because it's like if you think about it, the slim came after doing multiple ideations of the original.
That's true.
So it might not show up until like PS6, PS7.
Yeah. Good Burger's coming back.
Yeah, I saw that. They're going to be streaming it, which is going to be interesting.
Yep, on Paramount Plus.
Yep.
It's going to be a movie. Mm-hmm. It's called Your Good Burger 2, and they're all grown up.
Yep.
It's going to be like that Keke Palmer sketch.
Oh, my God.
On Saturday Night Live.
Not as ridiculous as a Keke Palmer sketch where my baby.
What was it? What was her catchphrase? There go the bus.
Something like that. It was like getting run over by the bus.
Yeah.
Something to do with the bus. She's hilarious.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And then, so American Horror Story is coming back.
Yeah, I saw the promo. Kim Kardashian's in it. Cara Delevingne's in it. I'm not really jazzed, honestly. Like, it's not anything to do with them. I'm really bored of American Horror Story.
Right. Well, according to the Hollywood Reporter, what's the guy, the American Horror Story guy?
Ryan
Murphy.
Yeah.
Of the 4 shows that continued filming once the writers and actors strike hit, 3 of them were Ryan Murphy shows.
Not shocked.
And he allegedly threatened to blackball crew members should they choose to strike in solidarity.
Ew.
But he told the Hollywood Reporter that he's following the letter of the law and only going to set as a producer, showrunner, director, and working on scripts that were finished before the strike started. I don't believe him.
Well, and here's the thing. He could be, I mean, like, that's still his role. Like, that's still his role no matter what. So it's not like he got rid of some of his roles because of it or whatever, and he's not, like, out there promoting things. But at the same time, if it's been rumored that he has been, on the people that are there, like, that's not good, and that makes you an awful showrunner in general. So don't be like that.
Of all the shows that could functionally run without a writer, I feel like American Horror Story is one of them.
Yeah, because all it is fucking at this point.
It's just batshit. Like the show is all, like, I haven't watched in a few seasons, but I remember the last few seasons I was watching it being like, you just have to walk into the show knowing that the goofiest shit is going to happen.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I feel like, so the first 3 were really good. Like, I loved the first 3 up to Coven.
Yeah.
But then, like, it started to jump the shark after that. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't like the Freak Show one, even though I watched most of it. I was kind of like, eh. I skipped Roanoke completely because I didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And then, but we tried to watch the circus one, and it was so much like real life, I didn't want to watch it.
The election one.
Yeah, like yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm already having enough issues with the election. I can't do this right now. So I didn't watch that one. I started watching Hotel and lost interest. The only thing I've made it all the way through since was Apocalypse, and because it tied back to 1 and 2 and 3. And that is all I cared about at that point. So like you were watching 1984. I was kind of
Yeah, and I
this
didn't.
is all right.
I don't think I even finished it.
I don't think you did either. So, and like adding somebody like Kim Kardashian to the mix,
Yeah.
I really don't care. Like that is the biggest turnoff to me at this point.
I liked that I
So-
saw the guy who played Chief O'Brien in Star Trek
Mhm.
giving Kim Kardashian shit about promoting the show,
Yeah.
about crossing a picket line. I was
Yep.
like,
Well,
you get him, Chief O'Brien.
it's not like she cares at all.
No, she doesn't.
You know,
care.
she doesn't care about anybody else but herself and her family and her money. Like, that's all it really is. So, for her to cross a picket line is nothing because it's not going to hurt her at the end of the day. She's untouchable at this point.
Right.
She's a fucking monster.
American Horror Story's coming back if you care.
Yeah.
Basically.
Sorry. Didn't mean to be so about it, but
No, it's all good. You know, I'm really kind of excited to watch the new Star Wars Ahsoka because I really I think I only watched like a season of Rebels, but it looks like all of the Rebels characters are in this show in live action, and that's going to be so much fun. I saw a clip of Mary Elizabeth Winstead at playing Hera and talking with the little R2 unit from Rebels Chopper, and it was adorable.
Yeah.
Like they're flying and Chopper's giving her shit. She's like, "No, I didn't touch your stuff."
That'll be fun. I know that I name drop Tony in every episode, but like he keeps trying to get me
There
to
you go.
watch. There's it.
We
there
got
it is.
you again,
Tony. And it had nothing to do with pronouncing anything. Are you happy now? I'm just screwing with him, and now I'm just gonna egg him on every time.
Exactly.
But like him and Mike Pandoff, friend of the show, are both like, hey, you know what we could do? We could do a podcast about Star Wars Clone Wars,
Right.
Star Wars Rebels. I'm like, why are you trying to get me to create content around this? I don't have time for this. And on top of it, they've been trying to get me to watch this for how many years now? Now I'm just being stubborn.
That could be fun though, because me and Pandoff are doing the movie podcast. Like
Yeah.
you and Tony could do a Star Wars Clone Wars podcast.
He said, why don't we do one where we get stoned and watch it? And I'm like, do you realize that you're going to have to come over every week? Because I can't come over to your house if
Right.
you're not going to be on Zoom, first of all. Second of all, we have to sit there and smoke and watch it.
Right.
So, like, how does that work? So we'll see if that ever materializes. But now I'm just kind of like, no, I'm not watching it. Ha 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 ha. But
You'd rather go in blind.
well, what'll be interesting though is I'm kind of like on the flip side of it. I'm interested to see me watching it without any context.
Sure.
Will I find it interesting? Will it drag me into it? Because like we watched the Mandalorian stuff and we watched the Book of Boba Fett, and even with the Book of Boba Fett, we had the Cad Bane character.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I want to know more about that guy. And like Mike sent me like a montage of things you should know about him.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of knew a little bit more, but I kind of want to go into Ahsoka blind and see what happens.
Did I tell you I had a dream last night that you asked me, okay, tell me what I need to know about Kitty Pryde?
No.
And like, I couldn't stop.
Oh, God.
I was trying to boil it down to the most important stuff, but it ended up being like 45 minutes.
Your dreams are very interesting because you have some of the weirdest, like, most innocent dreams
Yeah.
of things. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, I had like a dream about Roman Reigns last night. Like,
A sexy dream?
no.
Welcome
I was just
to
like, what the hell?
welcome to a preview of Really Big Fan Pod After
Well, it was
Dark.
like I was just hanging out with Roman Reigns. I'm like, I don't even like Roman Reigns that much. I don't understand.
I think he's a cool guy.
Like he seems like he's cool and chill. Like maybe I would probably like Joe. I don't know if I necessarily like Roman, but
Yeah.
Joe seems
yeah,
like
exactly.
he's cool.
Joe Hanoi.
Yeah,
You'd be
like he would be fun to hang out with, I think. But no, I think my favorite one about you and your dreams though was when you came out of your procedure and you were hoping you would have X-Men dreams.
I was hoping I'd have, and I didn't.
He was very, very high off of his procedure and was like, I was hoping I would have X-Men dreams, but I didn't. And I was like, oh.
That was the cool part, is that we woke up in the middle of the night because Lou was committing cat crimes, and it was very easy to fall back to sleep because I remembered what I'd been dreaming about, so I just picked up where I left off and tried to explain in my head to a you that was living in my head about Kitty, and then I just fell back asleep.
I like that you had like an interrupted dream and you went back in and you were still talking about it.
Yeah,
Like we could have been there for hours in dream limbo and you don't even know.
it's true. It was funny because I even dream you. I could tell at one point I was losing you, and I needed to like really start cutting the fat and like what are the essential things left that she needs to know about Kitty Pryde?
I know she goes through walls.
Yeah,
That's as much as I know.
she's got a pet alien dragon.
And was played by Elliot Page.
Yes.
That's all I know.
This is very well played by Elliot Page.
Love it.
Fantastic Kitty Pryde.
I don't have any news related things that would be of interest to the people that are listening, so
Okay.
I am completely bone dry today. I was looking up things and I'm like, nobody cares about Ariana Grande firing her manager.
She fired her manager?
Her, Demi Lovato, and apparently Justin Bieber's on his way out too. They're all firing Scooter Braun.
Oh, they're all firing the same manager?
Yes.
What did he do?
No idea. Like, it says that he's like taking on a new role at a different company, but they've all decided
And they're all
to
like,
let
nope.
it go.
Nope.
So I have no idea, but this could be related slightly to Taylor Swift because of the fact that Taylor Swift, he bought her masters, and that's why she's doing all those Taylor's versions. So these guys might all be jumping ship because they don't want to deal with his bullshit.
With that kind of thing.
Yeah. I know that they're doing like a re-release of something with Ariana Grande right now. I don't know even what the album is called, but it was noted in the news that apparently part of the problem as to why her and Pete Davidson broke up was because her management was heavily involved in their relationship.
Is it racist that whenever I hear Ariana Grande's name, I think it's a Starbucks order?
No, it makes perfect sense. And if it makes you feel any better, she's like, you know, race baiting to a degree.
It's true. She's not that brown.
She's actually white, guys, in case you're wondering. She's just very, very tan. So that's all I've got for today. I looked before. I did show prep like you, but I did not find anything.
It's terrible that you did show prep like me because I do my show prep 30 minutes before we go on the air.
Exactly. I did it like literally 5 minutes beforehand, and I'm like, I can't find anything. We're done.
That's how I learned morning radio does it, so that's how I do it.
Gotcha.
All right, well, we're going to get to our interview segment. We got our friend Dana Winkler back, and we're going to talk about Pee Wee Herman, the late Paul Reubens, but also about Saturday morning cartoons and our love of them. And that is next on the Really Big Fan Podcast. Tequila! Welcome back. It's the Really Big Fan Pod, and we're having one of our first two-time guests this time. Yes, the return of Miss Dana Winkler, who is joining us because we were talking about having you back on the podcast because you're into all sorts of the same stuff that we are. But one of the things that came up in conversation was that the recent passing of Paul Reubens had you nostalgic for like the cartoons we used to watch when it was whether it be Saturday mornings or in the afternoons. First of all, how are you doing this afternoon?
You know, I'm hanging in there. Like you said, I mean, really sad to hear about Paul Reubens, so it's kind of been put a damper on these past few, you know, weeks just thinking about it.
Sure.
But you know, I'm doing okay. It's a beautiful day. I'm hanging out, you know. I got my iced tea, I got my cat. I can't complain.
Excellent.
Wearing my elf shirt.
Oh, nice. Absolutely. So yeah, let's dig into it. What are your earliest memories of waking up on a Saturday morning and getting excited because cartoons were on?
I know. So when I was really little, keep in mind I was born in '85. So this is where some of my cartoon, I guess, ness came into play. But when I was as far back as I can remember, the TV was kind of like my babysitter.
Sure.
So I was, you know, it was always just my VHS player or whatever we can get with the antennas. And one of the first ones was Eureka's Castle.
Ah, okay. And that was with the puppets, right?
Yeah, it was more of the puppets thing. I think at the time Jim Henson was really big. So it was like that and like the Fraggle Rock and stuff like that. And I would line up all my stuffed animals, like all in a row so we can watch our shows every morning. And Saturday mornings also had Inspector Gadget.
Yep.
Yes.
Which was great, especially since Penny was the one who was always, you know, saving the day in the long run. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah. What was the dog's name again?
Oh gosh.
Inspector Gadget.
Oh, I forgot.
We're gonna be Googling a lot of things during this.
That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's really gonna be jogging my memory. But I just loved how Inspector Gadget, you know, was always like a go gadget copter, but then his roller skates would come out, and you know, I don't know. I always thought that was kind of funny. And that whole show is, and the villain, you can never see his face, but he's always, his cat right there,
I find it funny. He pulled it up. The dog's name is Brian?
Brain.
Brain?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Dog's name was Brain because he was always saving the day. He was the smart one.
I looked at it and I was like, Brian. I wonder if that's why the Family Guy dog is named Brian.
No, it's Brain.
And I think it was always the dog and that little girl Penny with the blonde hair. Yep. I think they were the ones that always saved the day in the long run. Between that and Inspector Gadget kind of clumsily running into them later on, kind of like a Shaggy and Scooby-Doo situation with the gang.
How far back does stuff like Penelope Pitstop and all of that? Is that pre?
That's that kind of, you're talking about the Hanna-Barbera cartoons?
Yeah, because
that stuff was made. That stuff was made in 60s? I think the 50s and 60s.
Because I used to watch that.
Yeah.
Well, there were a few. There were like the Wacky Races. I don't know if you guys remember Wacky Races, stuff like that. That was 1977. I mean, I think a lot of those were like in the 70s, I want to say.
Yeah, I used actually, to like the dog that would.
Oh yeah, Muttley.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that was one of the. Oh, that one was. I love the Hanna-Barbera stuff. I can have a whole conversation about it.
Bear and everything.
Yeah,
they had like a. I don't know if it was a retro channel at that point or if they just had like a retro block, but I would see all of those.
So here's the funny thing about this conversation. I was born in 77. Dana, you just said you were born in 85. You didn't.
Yeah, 88.
88. Yeah. So like we've almost got 3 completely separate generations of kids watching Saturday morning or cartoons and stuff. And the fascinating thing is I remember growing up before cable television when like Saturday mornings were the cartoon morning. And in the 80s, when they figured out that they could package a 22-minute advertisement for Transformers and G.I. Joe, it exploded. And it was like you got cartoons in the afternoons when you got home from school, you got them sometimes in the morning before you went to school during the week, and then you got them on Saturdays and stuff. And once cable happened, it was all over.
Right. Then cartoons all the time.
Yeah.
And there really was like an evolution of like entertainment during that time, and how cartoons were actually like made during that time too.
Yeah.
I mean, we went from like Speed Racer to Sailor Moon in the course of really like 20 years, but you could see just the evolution of at least of that style of animation.
Yep.
I feel like Sailor Moon was huge when I was growing up. I do remember that. But it was like the Americanized version where they would like
I'm upset
that Uranus was gay or like anything. It was just like they're cousins.
There you go.
Really, I'm obsessed with Sailor Moon. Like I still to this day have all the mangoes.
Artemis on my arm.
Oh, you do? Oh, I wanted to get a little Luna ball tattoo somewhere. I just thought
that's what I want to put in between because I feel like getting that little gray cat would not fit. I don't remember the gray cat's name. Diana. So like I don't think that she'll fit in here, but I think the Luna ball would fit in here and it would kind of unify it.
Well, that's a whole fascinating aspect of this that we may have to have you on a third time just to get into some of these tangents, something like that. But when in the presentation of cartoons, what do you guys remember as your first Japanese anime?
Definitely Sailor Moon for me.
Yeah.
There was this one, and it came out, I want to say it was the 70s. It was called White Lion. And it was almost like a Simba. It was almost like a lion.
I actually remember that too.
Is it Kimba, I think?
Kimba, yeah.
Yeah, Kimba the White Lion.
Yep. Was this the animal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the dude right there.
Yep. I used to have that on a VHS.
Yep.
Oh yeah. There was that one, and then Speed Racer, because my mom's kind of a big nerd too, and she was kind of into Speed Racer, and she actually named her car the Mach 5 growing up. She had
that's awesome.
a Camaro, and she would ride her Camaro all up and down the roads like crazy. But so Speed Racer was definitely, and we used to yell, "Go Speed Racer, go!" Whatever she would.
I remember there was a cartoon. It was very Power Rangers-esque, where there were 5 people that were kind of had like bird costumes. It was called G-Force when I saw it. Eventually, it was adapted to be called Battle of the Planets.
Huh.
I've seen images, but I have not actually seen that one.
So that's pre-Captain Planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they had a plane of some sort, and they had laser pistols, and they would do kung fu and whatnot. But and then I think eventually, I think in Japan it was called Gotcha Man, if I remember correctly. I found out years later. I was like, oh, that was a huge deal over there too, and it had a totally different name.
That tangent was very paku paku, means to flap one mouth open and closed.
Or like Mega Man
Pilgrim reference.
Right.
Yeah. It's like the Mega Man Rockman situation, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And that was a fun thing we can get into as well, as the fact that a lot of what happened with Saturday morning cartoons is they started adapting not only like what can we make toys out of, but like what are the big movies right now? Oh, let's make a Beetlejuice cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to make, Star Wars Ewoks and Droids cartoons. And
Batman Beyond.
Batman or the animated series even.
Yeah.
Like the animated series was on the tail end of the first 89 Michael Keaton movie, I think. Is when they dropped that.
Yeah. I think it was just after the 1991 release of Batman Returns, they did the Batman animated series, which gave us the first Harley Quinn.
Right.
That was her origin. But yeah, and also during that time, we got an evolution. That was the early 90s. That was like 1990, 1991. We started getting Spider-Man, the X-Men animated series came out in 94. We got, there were so many. That were just, it brought us so many good characters too, like Gambit, like Rogue, and I love them so much that even to this day, I still call my friends Bub and Sugar,
That's fun. Very cool.
And it's because of these cartoons that we grew up with that kind of like molded who we are today.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned something too about like real life things that later on became, or movies that later on became cartoons. There was also what was it called? Ed Grimley. So I was obsessed with Martin Short when I was a child. Okay,
that's a core memory.
I don't know that one.
Okay, I was obsessed with Martin Short, and he had his character on SNL, and he had his little like hair stick up, and he would just dance silly, and his name was Ed Grimley, and they made a cartoon about it later on. That was totally weird.
Yes,
and then there was the Godzilla cartoon, the animated series.
Yeah, also a wild thing to like, how are we going to make this something children can consume in 22 minutes? The giant monster. We have to make him friendly and make the other monsters he's defending everyone from.
I like
and give him a little son.
Disney universe that they had, where they had like, it wasn't just like Mickey and Minnie, but there was like a whole section of just Goofy cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
That was like
Goofy,
Max,
Troop was awesome.
All them, and like showed like Pete's entire family was involved, and Goofy with his son and stuff, and that was like a big deal at one point. And they had like, there's that guy that's like the embodiment of Steve Buscemi in an animated looking character, but he had that voice. I don't remember.
But
where
he's from.
He played so many characters throughout. Like there was one episode where they did something where they were like going on a cruise, but it ended up being like a haunted cruise, and he was like this creepy, like I don't even know. I'd have to Google it, but it was so weird. Like I remember stuff like that because it was like the same voice actor. You'd run into him in everything, which was like voice acting was very big at that time, I would imagine.
And that's one of the things that's really fun is to like realize guys like Peter Cullen and be like, oh, I know this voice. I recognize even as a child, you'd be like, is there a reason that, Garfield sounds exactly like Pete Venkman and Ghostbusters? Oh, because it's the same guy.
Same guy, yeah. And, also, I mean, Ghostbusters is another example of a movie that later on became a cartoon.
Yeah.
That was
absolutely was not for kids.
No, it was not. I'm pretty sure it was a creeper.
Yeah, I remember my parents actually took me to see Ghostbusters when it came out in theaters, and I hid because I was scared of Slimer and the dogs and everything. But then when that cartoon hit, it was everything. It was like I want to be a Ghostbuster for Halloween.
Yeah, and also, you were talking about like similar like voice actors, also similar animation. So Jem and the Holograms had the same animation as G.I. Joe, I want to say.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
you can kind of tell. And I remember even as a child thinking like, oh, it's like a girl version and a boy version almost. Like either you were a Gem and the Holograms or you were a G.I. Joe.
That was a
But
funny one because there are a lot of, young boys that grew up, myself included, that actually liked Gem and the Holograms a lot. And I wonder how much that is part of, you could recognize the art style is very similar to your G.I. Joe cartoon you watch all the time. And then they had little music videos in the middle of everything. I was a little jealous of like girls got
yeah.
cool Gem and the Hologram figures with clothes, and they'd come with a cassette that had the
Um,
songs from the show. And I was like, oh, I want that.
like and G.I. Joe had a comic book. Gem and the Holograms had a comic book.
Yeah.
And Gem and the Holograms, the band, the bad guys were the Misfits. And I remember thinking like, oh, that's so cool, and then, I don't know. I was always a fan of Gem and the Holograms for sure. And G.I. Joe, though, I have to say, because I was so a tomboy when I was younger. So it was, G.I. Joe, it was Gargoyles, it was, whatever, Transformers, He-Man, She-Ra. I mean, I could go on. I mean, there were so many good ones.
They're doing a Gargoyles movie, and Kenneth Branagh is directing, I think.
Mhm.
And of course, Keith David's going to be in it.
Well, he's got to be.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
feel like Gargoyles was for your generation what Thundercats was for my generation. Like, it's kind of, you watch it. Yes.
Oh,
You watch it and you're like, wow, that one's hot.
I didn't have that problem. I can understand Robin Hood, the animated Robin Hood.
Oh, for sure.
Foxes. That makes more sense to me. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like ferns?
Yeah. There were so many good ones. But yeah, Gargoyles was really dark and stuff like that. By the way, the NECA figures, I don't know if you guys have ever seen these NECA figures.
Oh, wow.
So detailed. I have the whole set. Like, they're
That's
so
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. NECA makes really cool figures, very expensive figures, but whenever
it opens up too.
Yeah, whenever they make something, it's always like very awesome. It's the best version ever of whatever you want.
Please. Did you guys ever go down the rabbit hole of Rescue Rangers and Darkwing Duck?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yes. Oh gosh, Darkwing Duck was my initials are DW.
Yeah. I sometimes just mutter to myself when I'm doing mundane things, let's get dangerous.
Does the camera zoom in on you when you do it? Just like
maybe. Who knows? But I was just like, I'll be like getting coffee and I'll get back in the car, I'll put it down and I'll start the car and I'll just be like, let's get dangerous. And then I'm like, why did I say that? I'm not doing anything cool.
I do too, but
Tailspin was one of them.
Yes, it
that
was.
had like the Baloo character, but wasn't
from
Baloo.
Baloo from the Jungle Book is flying a plane and delivering things.
Yeah, but I was really big into Rescue Rangers. That was my jam because they even had like they did a Sherlock Holmes episode, like the Baskerville Hounds, like cartoon.
Right.
So like stuff like that was really cool to me.
It was funny when Disney decided they needed to get in on that and start. I think it started with DuckTales.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, this is really okay. We can do this. And they started just cranking one out after another.
That song slaps.
DuckTales is a great song.
Yeah. I saw somebody do a drag performance to that at Pride.
Did she have a bill?
She didn't have the bill, but she had like a feather jacket and was wearing yellow. And when it would go like woohoo, she would flap.
I would throw money. I would throw money at that.
Yeah, right. Little kids loved her. Yeah. They were like jazzed as hell, and everybody was singing. It was great.
Well, that was another aspect of the Saturday morning cartoons is your theme song had to be
a banger.
A banger. Mm-hmm. You've got like 60 to 70 seconds to worm your way into a child's head and make them sing you for the rest of the day.
Well, that's why I like the Batman one, because that's a banger.
It is. There's no lyrics, but it's just really good.
Really good.
Yeah.
But that X-Men one, it had the
with the guitar, the electric guitar.
Yeah, exactly. And that translated over the years. Obviously, the Ninja Turtles one was really good.
Yeah.
The Power Rangers song everyone loves.
I don't know anything about what was the one that you mentioned? Crap. It went out of my brain. I'll figure it out later.
Okay, sorry. It wasn't Inspector Gadget. Well, you knew Inspector Gadget.
That one, Inspector
Gadget. She got me a box set for my birthday last year of all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoons. It's like all 10 seasons of the cartoons. And it's funny because when you put the disc in, there's an advertisement for this Inspector Gadget CGI show that is an abomination.
Oh God.
Like just dead-eyed PlayStation 2 CGI of Inspector
Ooh.
Gadget. I was like, oh, that's
I know what it was. I don't know anything about G.I. Joe. The only thing I know about G.I. Joe is the jacked up commercial, the ones that you have on YouTube. That's literally the only thing I know. So it's like, I'm a computer, stop all the downloading. And that's, I don't know anything else. I've never watched a single moment of G.I. Joe. That is all I've seen.
There's a part of me that wants to leave you there. It's just let you think that's what G.I. Joe was.
The only
never
thing
show you an episode, never ruin that.
The guy was like coming up to him and trying to kidnap him and stuff. Like, I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah, and then at the end there was always like a moral or something too, like, oh, the more you know, like.
That's one of the things I've discovered, and I want to get into maybe some things you've discovered getting older and then going back and watching some of these cartoons. But if you watch some of them, the soundtrack is constant, and there's only like 4 songs they use for both Transformers and G.I. Joe, but there is always music in the background, which is fascinating to like put on and fall asleep to.
Yes, and actually the best example of that was a show in the 90s, which I am still completely obsessed with. It's called Pirates of the Dark Water.
Oh, I remember that show.
Yes.
I don't remember anything about it, but I can picture the cast.
Yeah, it had a little phoenix that loved pomegranates and he could fly around, but the water was poisoned, but it was a water world.
Yes.
You know? And it was dark and it was brooding and it was like gargoyles where it was very much like thunder and lightning and spooky, but it had like a constant kind of soundtrack like all throughout that was just it was sick. I mean, they had a full orchestra in that studio, man. Like with the violins, you know.
You have to like think about it for a second too, just in general, like with the 90s and some of the 80s where it was like the musical component was very important, because even commercials, like, not to go off topic, but I'm thinking about the baby back ribs commercials where those clips have come out now of the guys in the studio singing it, and I'm just like, that stuff was so important, and I feel like we've kind of lost that a little bit these days.
It is a little weird to watch the descent of it. Like I said before, once cable hit, then we had Nickelodeon at the beginning, and they would, play. Nickelodeon was fascinating at the beginning because it would play a bunch of stuff from other countries because they didn't have enough content for us. Like that's where we got to see Danger Mouse, which was a British cartoon. And then once Cartoon Network hit and it was 24 hours Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and they added all that, they started making their own stuff. I feel like the late 90s is about when the regular networks gave up on cartoons. They're like, we can't match a station that has cartoons 24 hours a day, so screw it.
Well, and it's like you had Dexter's Lab, you had even like when they brought out Adult Swim, then you had Space Ghost and all that stuff too, and like none of Cow and Chicken. Like I didn't really like Cow and Chicken, but like I remember it being there in between like Dexter's Lab and Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Yeah.
Like I was more of like the night cartoon. Like that was I watched all the weird creepy stuff. Like,
yeah,
and then all Nightmare Before Christmas, it ruined me.
And it's funny too, because like just like a few years before when they started doing like the 24-hour cartoon, that's when we got our Rocko's Modern Life and like our things like our Ren and Stimpy's and our Beavis and Buttheads are like cable TV cartoons.
Yep.
Daria is one of my favorites. That one's a really good one.
Right.
Did you guys ever see, like, maybe not so much you, but you might be a little bit more closer to it, like stuff like Recess on Saturday morning? Like ABC would do the Saturday morning cartoons, and it was like there was Recess and a couple others. I'm trying to remember. Was
it a cartoon? Because I know ABC was one of the ones I remember growing up.
Time block
that really started putting live action shows in, because cartoons would start at like 6 a.m. and they'd always start with the old cartoons like Woody Woodpecker and the Hanna-Barbera stuff. And then around 8 o'clock is when they start shelling out the really good new stuff, whether it was a Pac-Man cartoon or Captain N or something. And then once like X-Men hit, it was around 11 o'clock once you're getting close to noon.
Yeah, this was like September 13th, 1997 to like September 7th, 2002. And it had its own theme song, the time block. It was one Saturday morning. And it had Pepper Ann, Doug, Recess, and I think there was a couple others as well, but those were like the main ones that they did. and it had its own little emblem and stuff
Right.
and everything. But it was like, I think it started at like 10 or 11 and then like ended at maybe like noon or something like that. But it was on ABC every Saturday morning.
It is really. Go ahead.
I think. Oh, I was gonna say. I think by then. Well, also keep in mind. So I grew up in Southern California, and in Los Angeles County and stuff, we had like different like channels and different time blocks for like a lot of things too. But
Sure.
I think out of the time block or that you're talking about is a little different. But I did watch a little bit of Doug, but the rest, I think I was in middle school by then, so I wasn't really watching like a lot of cartoons then so much. But Doug, I remember, I even in middle school, I'm like, no, that's my guy right there. You know, the beats were sick. You know.
So have you revisited any of the old shows and either found a new love for them or been like, ooh, this didn't age as well as my memories?
There's a few that don't age well, actually. But you know, going back and like watching things like, although it's not like a cartoon so much. I don't know. Did you guys ever watch like Big Bad Beetleborgs or like VR Troopers?
No, those I didn't. I remember the name.
Yeah.
Bad Beetle.
Name wise, like that was the generation of like, oh shit, Power Rangers is a big deal. What can we do like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like one of those that they took the idea from like a Japanese version of it and then they brought it over to America. And VR Troopers, it was very much like that, and except they were in the computer kind of thing, you know. And there was a time where it was all about like computer stuff. So there was also the what's another good example of that? There was
Reboot was that
Reboot.
CGI, that one of those first CGI shows.
Yeah. Yeah, that came out, I think, when I was like in the 6th or 7th grade or something. I remember I really liked Reboot a lot.
Yeah.
But you know, I went back and I rewatched a couple episodes of like VR Troopers, and it was like very apparent, like there was some storylines that would make some women uncomfortable now. You know what I mean? Or you kind of go back and you watch something like, ooh, that didn't, like even episodes of Alf, sometimes you watch it, you're like, oh, okay.
I feel
But
like
it's
that would
Alf.
happen with the dinosaurs cartoon.
Probably.
Because it was basically like Dinosaur Roseanne.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Are you talking about the live action show with the big puppets?
The big puppet guys, like the suits and stuff? I don't think that probably aged well at all.
The last episode is wild.
Yeah, he's just like, are we gonna live? No, probably not. Like it goes really dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the background too, I think you see like a nuke cloud or something, or like a comet got hit or something. You see like
the meteor hits and it goes into an ice age and they're just stuck in the house and it's just like,
like, well, we can't keep this going forever, and this is what really happened to dinosaurs. So,
well, did you guys ever watch that show? I think it was called like Thomas the Gnome. It was a 1980s cartoon.
Yeah, I remember Thomas the Gnome.
I think that's what it was called. And like the last episode was like incredibly sad because they only lived for 500 years, these gnomes, and they reached their 500th birthday. So they went out into the forest and then they let the earth take them over and they became trees. So essentially they died.
Right.
So basically it was the Radiohead's They're There video.
For Thomas the Gnome. It was fascinating what they either thought they could get away with or what they literally got away with, because they're like, the parents aren't watching.
We're just putting them in front of the TV.
We slip it. Not only the parents not watching, but the kids who are watching are going to tell the parents about this stuff, and they're not going to believe them because it's just kids going like, and then this happened, and then this.
And you know what? And you know what? Right. And you know what? I definitely went down like the Captain Planet rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like with the gap of time that we have between us, it was like there was like a big chunk of where they went just environmental with so many things. That's where like Fern Gully came from.
Yep.
It's just like one big movie telling you the planet is gonna die if we keep doing that.
Right.
But Captain Planet was kind of like that as well to a degree. It was all about recycling and shit.
Yeah. It's funny too, because like I said, it went from Saturday morning kind of being the nexus of what you would see as far as a child to like, now stuff's just on all the time. Now all the different channels have the cartoons, when they come out with a new Ninja Turtles cartoon or a new Ghostbusters or something, that's just in prime time on a cable channel. Yeah. And you just catch it on streaming, like I did with the new Transformers cartoon. They just put it on a service, which is fascinating.
I'm like, and that's a thing to try to jog my brain. Did you guys ever do the Jetsons?
I remember that. Yeah, I remember the Jetsons.
Yeah, I remember the Jetsons, the Flintstones, and stuff. another one from like the early 90s I was a big fan of because they were going through that thing, you know, everyone loved the Ninja Turtles. So they had like a biker mice from Mars, and they had like street sharks. And like to this day, I still say, "Oh, Jossum." No one gets the reference.
Nice.
Ever.
I remember those Street Sharks figures were crazy because they were just like, they were almost like mad balls, just a big, gross looking head and then just little tiny arms and legs.
I think the Animaniacs are at fault for my humor.
Probably. It's specifically the fingerprints.
Yes,
gag.
The fingerprints gag is definitely part of that humor, like that and Pinky and the Brain and stuff like that. Pinky and the Brain was my jam.
And I think Animaniacs is where Pinky the Brain was a spin-off of, and then so was Freakazoid was a spin-off.
Yeah,
I think
Freakazoid was fascinating because by that time I think I was almost in middle school by the time Freakazoid came out, and I remember watching a few episodes of it and thinking, this is more adult than Animaniacs. Like some of these jokes are certainly not for children.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then there's Pokemon. I completely forgot that Pokemon was part of that.
Yeah, Pokemon was a huge deal.
It became such a big like thing overall for so many years. Like, but they had that whole TV show. They have like the little thing at the end, like, "Who's that Pokemon?"
Yeah,
and that sort of thing.
So, and that was I think it was in the first season they had the episode that that caused the epileptic flashbacks with all the kids in Japan. That they had to edit.
It was the Pokemon movie, the first Pokemon movie, and it was the end scene, and they had like a lot of flashing and stuff with Mewtwo. It was that scene when we had a bunch of kids that had the seizure. There was it's funny too because you mentioned that like at the end there's like, oh, who's that Pokemon? There were so many cartoons like they always had like an end clip for about something like She-Ra. At the end of She-Ra they'd be like, oh, find this character in the bush, you know what I mean?
Oh wow.
And there was or like the more you know there was like a little side thing, and I feel like that's where Pokemon kind of got their idea was from those 80s cartoons. Like, hey, let's do a little side thing in between commercials to keep them hooked, you know?
Didn't they have a Carmen Sandiego cartoon at one point?
Absolutely did. I watched the hell out of that.
I remember like the game show, but I don't think I saw the cartoon as much.
I remember watching the cartoon because it was part of like it was part of the Fox Kids morning, and that was around the time that like Bobby's World was the thing. But also like you watch Fox Kids because the Tick and X-Men were on at near the end of the end of the morning.
Yeah,
Bobby's World always kind of gave me the creeps. I don't know what it was about the animation style.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I love Bobby's World, and for some reason, so all my family's from Duluth, Minnesota, and they all sound like Bobby's mom.
That was my favorite part of Bobby's World is her funny accent.
Yeah,
the Minnesota, Duluth, Fargo, whatever accent. Like, oh, we found him in a wood chipper. You know, I mean, that's
there is a girl that does that on TikTok, but she says kinky things. In that accent.
Yeah.
And so she just like reads off like kinky things, but in that accent, and then just like she'll look at one and go, "Oh my god, I can't even believe you guys asked me to say this." But it's all like Minnesota, don't you know?
Yeah.
But Bobby's World was great. Yeah, the Tick. Yeah, and for us, Fox Mornings was on Channel 11 growing up, and they were like it like went from like that to. What was another one that was at that time? But, the Tick was so great. And actually, I really liked when they actually had like a live action version of it later on too. Like, I love that the actor that played Arthur, I thought was like brilliant.
Yeah.
I still have some of my, because they had comic books, of course. I have all those, and it just reminded me so much of what Space Ghost was before, not the Coast to Coast, but when he was like a Hanna-Barbera-like cartoon back in the day. It reminds me a lot of his bravado, and I think that's why I just like love the Tick so much.
It's wild because the Tick is one of those things that benefited from Ninja Turtles exploding. Like there were a bunch of black and white comics that once Ninja Turtles hit, it's almost like the Seattle scene with the music. Like once one or two hits happen, then everyone converges on like a scene and is like, okay, what can we get from this scene? And like, yeah, there you go. Oh my goodness. That's one of the originals.
Yeah, it's one of them. But then also the toys. Can we talk about the toys that came out in 1992?
Okay, but the mouth is so weird. I like they remade some of these,
Yes.
and like he's showing me them, and I'm like, why does he have that?
Yeah, no, they always throw him like that.
And you can see his little turtle nipples through his turtle tank top. I mean, that's something.
What is it with the 80s and nipples?
They were gonna milk them.
Oh god. Yeah. So that one did have nipples. Right. Okay, yeah. No, I'm like that. You got Batman.
Yeah, with
nipples,
bat nipples.
Bat nipples.
Yeah. And then Street Sharks, they all had abs and shit. You know?
I remember those guys.
Those guys were wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some of their trading cards and shit. I like Street Sharks. I thought they were awesome. Biker Mice from Mars, though, that was my jam. I mean,
I missed out on Biker Mice from Mars and found out through another podcast about the Super Nintendo game and tried it out on an emulator. That game slaps. That game is fantastic.
Yeah, I think I want to say this was some of the same animators that did like the Lion King game for SNES or something too. Like it was difficult to play. And I think I have a Biker Mice from Mars #1 somewhere in my comic collection right there. If I thought about it, I'm not gonna dig,
Right, and that's another one of those things where like not only did comics like The Tick, which had no connection to Ninja Turtles, benefit, but then people that worked with Eastman and Laird ended up making their own stuff. Like I think it was Cowboys of Moo Mesa was a thing that was made by one of the people who worked with Eastman and Laird on Ninja Turtles art and wanted to have their own thing, and they're like, please, dude, we'll help you pitch it, kind of thing. And then there they go. They've got action figures, they got a cartoon show, and we're off to the races.
Yeah, I forgot about that Moo Mesa one until recently, and I think it just like when I saw something about it, because I go into these deep dives myself, and I'll go through like Wikipedia like dark holes, and I found it in there, and I was just like, man, I forgot about that. Like all together, it's like a weird flashback from a childhood memory. Like, oh yeah. Moo Mesa, like it is.
It is fun being alive right now and being able to, like, anything you can think of, somebody has probably uploaded to YouTube. So you can actually find clips of these cartoons that live in your brains. There's a few Nickelodeon cartoons that were like a French cartoon or something like that at least once a year, I have to remind myself what that cartoon was called, because there's parts of it that live in my brain forever. And then I'll go down that YouTube rabbit hole and I'll spend 5 minutes watching an episode and be like, that was nice. And then on to the next thing.
And for me, what that one show was too, and I feel like I'm one of the only people that know about this show. It's called Samurai Pizza Cats.
Yeah, and I remember they look like little super deformed cats with like mecha armor, right?
Yeah, and they worked at a pizza shop, right? And then and whenever there was trouble, they would like get shot out of these pizza cannons to wherever it was located, and they would just like show up there from the cannons. So
it does cats, pizza, samurais.
And it's animated. And the people that did the soundtrack were the B-52s, I want to say, or something like that. So if you go back and you watch the theme song, it's just like Samurai Pizza Cats. Oh yeah, who you gonna call pepperoni? It's the best.
They didn't do the original song, but I like finding cover songs of those intros and stuff. And Sublime did a cover song of the Hong Kong Phooey theme song.
Yes.
And that is like one of my favorite things.
So around the time Cartoon Network was just starting out, that's from a Saturday morning CD where they got a whole bunch of different modern like 90s acts to do covers and stuff. The Toadies are on that CD. Matthew Sweet did the Scooby-Doo theme on it. It's a fascinating record. I've got it downstairs. We'll have to pop it in and listen to it sometime because it's really fun. So we could go on and on about Saturday morning cartoons forever. But like the podcast only, needs to be about an hour. So we'll absolutely probably dig into this topic more than once, and have you back on to talk about more things, Dana. But before we let you go, I'm adjusting a segment that we used to call "What Have We Learned," where we would kind of like quiz each other on stuff because it makes her very stressed out, and that's kind of fun, but not fun to do all the time.
It's basically like, okay, you're a girl. Tell me what you know.
Right? No, and
tell me 3 things you know.
That's not the point of the discussion. But what I thought we would do between the three of us, because we all love some Saturday morning cartoons, let's say we get to program out Saturday mornings from like, what is it, 6 to 11. So you've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got 5 hours, and most cartoons are a half hour anyways. So that means we got 10 shows that we can pick to put on a Saturday morning cartoons. What is our, we'll go around and pick some cartoons. We'll start with you, Dana. What comes on at 6 a.m.?
Okay, so if it were up to me, I would start my day. Man, that's a lot of pressure. Man, I don't know. Okay, well, hold on. I want to start it off dark and brooding, so I would start with Gargoyles because it's kind of like,
all right.
It's kind of slow, kind of like how you first wake up, a little bit slow, but
Yep.
staying like the dark and brooding. I would probably go into a Batman animated series.
Okay.
And then keep up the comics. I'm a comic girl. So then from there, the Spider-Man animated series, the X-Men animated series.
Interesting. Okay, so we got 4 of them right there to choose from as far as that goes. But I like Gargoyle starting at the 6 a.m. thing, and I would have picked X-Men as well. So that actually works out. What about you? What are a couple that you want to throw in there?
I gotta go with Courage the Cowardly Dog.
You gotta get Courage in there.
Yeah,
absolutely,
definitely. That Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else.
It's funny because if I had to pick an anime to stick on Saturday mornings, it would be Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
Like I was not a Dragon Ball Z kid at all, but boy, oh boy, did I love me some Sailor Moon.
Yeah, and I definitely like Sailor Moon more than Pokemon.
Yeah.
In terms of the show.
Yeah.
Ash was kind of annoying sometimes.
Ash was kind of a dick.
Yeah, he was kind of a dick.
Pikachu was kind of a dick too.
Yeah.
To Ash for no good reason. But Ash was kind of mean to all the other Pokemon trainers.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah.
My brain is smooth again.
Yeah,
this is what
fine.
happens when we play these
When
games.
I put you on the
Put me
spot.
on the spot, my brain goes smooth. I mean, like, because that's the thing is, like, some of the ones that I like are not appropriate for the morning.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I would definitely pick like Animaniacs.
Yeah.
Because like you got Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain always is involved in that.
Right.
So there's that. Yeah, that would be it.
I like that you picked, like I said, I would have picked the X-Men cartoon, even though I watch it sometimes now on Disney Plus, and I'm like, how did I watch this as a child? It's so ugly. It's so nasty.
There is a very big aversion to some animation that I just can't get past.
Yeah, and that was the Spider-Man show that
Beyond.
Really? Oh, it fascinating because like the Spider-Man show you mentioned, I remember when that came out after the X-Men show and being like, no, I can't watch another one of these. The animation is just ugh.
I would watch the Goofy one again.
Yeah, the Goofy show.
Like the Goofy
Goof Troop.
What it's actually called.
Goof Troop.
Goof Troop. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that one's definitely good.
Darkwing is probably a good selection for that.
Yeah, for sure. And Rescue Rangers.
Yeah, I got to get some Rescue Rangers in there.
Yeah.
Yet another cartoon that, as we got older, some of us got inappropriately horny about.
Yeah, there were some people that really dug
Gadget.
Gadget.
Yeah.
I know I offered that a little too fast, but I'm not saying, but I understand that's a thing on the internet. And if I had to round out that Saturday morning, definitely want to get some Ghostbusters in there and some Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
that was always fantastic times. And then it's funny because here's a question. As a kid, when what was the show you remember that was okay, Saturday morning's over? Because for me it was The Wide World of Sports. Like when that show started, I was like, all right, Saturday morning's over. I'm gonna go in my room and play a video game or something.
I thought Pee-wee Herman's Playhouse kind of like ended cartoons when I was but I was so different. Like I said, as far as like the lineup growing up out there, but it would be like a lot of like cartoons, and then there was Pee-wee's Playhouse, which had some cartoons, but then after that was like real life or live action stuff.
Yeah. like Mr. Rogers and Lamb Chop and stuff.
Saved by the Bell was another one. It was it's like when the live action shows hit late in the day, it's like, okay, Saturday morning's over.
I feel like the news happened for me.
Yeah.
If it was like the one Saturday morning situation, I feel like the news came on after, and I was just like, yeah, I'm good. Like I didn't like local news. I only liked political news.
George Stephanopoulos on his Sunday mornings, as we discussed earlier. Dana, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast and helping us to rejigger our brains as far as the nostalgia of Saturday mornings. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
No, just go out and support your local comic book shop. And keep on rocking in the free world, I guess.
All right, fascinating. Thank you, Dana, for being on the show, and we'll be back with more of the Really Big Fan podcast right after this. Welcome back to the Really Big Fan Pod. Thank you so much, Dana, for helping us remember some of our favorite Saturday morning cartoons. The funny part is, after that segment, we ended up going through like YouTube and showing each other like.
Yeah, we were literally in the kitchen. I think you were doing dishes or eating or something, and it was just like blaring cartoon music.
Yep.
So it was definitely a brain jog. I had to go through the Animaniacs states and countries ones, DuckTales, Tailspin,
all the
Darkwing
Disney ones.
Duck.
I had you play the Gummy Bears theme.
Yep. Which I remember hearing, but never watched that show.
I couldn't tell you a thing about the show.
No.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and as always, we end our show with a lot of fun as we talk about our weekly serotonin boost that happens right now. This week, my serotonin boost is a comic that I'm not going to spoil for you, but just came out this week. It is called Marvel Unleashed. When this comic was solicited, I was like, I don't need this, because it's like the pet Avengers. You've got Falcon's Bird, the Frog Thor, Chewie, who is what Goose is named in the comics. So Captain Marvel's cat Chewie, Doctor Strange's Ghost Dog, and Lucky the Pizza Dog, all banding together to help a stray dog hunt down somebody's owner. I looked through it yesterday when I was at the comic store as I was pulling comics and putting them away, and I was like, oh no, this is cute. I have to have this. I did not realize that Chewbacca, or Chewie's name, Captain Marvel's cat's full name was Chewbacca Sassy Danvers.
Yes.
But that's what Red Wing, Falcon's Falcon.
I'm just laughing at the fact that you thought you weren't going to buy it. This is like
I really thought.
This was like when you were like, I don't need to see the new Transformers movie. I'm not going to watch it.
Right.
I don't care. Oh, that looks kind of cool. But this literally has animals in it. That is like your kryptonite.
It truly is. It truly is. But yeah, I was reading through it just this morning, and I was like, this is adorable. I have to tell people about this. This is an adorable comic book in the Marvel Universe with a bunch of Marvel pets. So go ahead and check that out. What about you?
Mine, I feel like all of the time when I do mine like don't do serotonin boost for anybody else to check out. They're
just you.
Like, what was cool in my life this week. I got to photograph Emo Night, like the official Emo Night, the other night, and I was hired to do it, and it was a blast. And there were so many songs where like we've joked before because like when we've played Rock Band, I'm really like, oh my God, I need to sound perfect. I need to sound so good on this microphone, even though people can barely hear me. And I'm like, oh God, I did so bad on that song and everything else. And I think like every time that we've joked about it, where we've been like, yeah, we should just do a band. I think like that's the thing that's stopping from it happening, is that thinking that I cannot do a performance.
Yeah.
No, I can do a performance. I did it in front of a bunch of fucking people because I was on stage jumping around, doing high kicks, screaming the songs, was hyping people up, yelling at everybody in the crowd to get crazy. Obviously, it's going to help my photos if everybody looks hype as hell.
Right.
And when people get drunk, or let's face it, half of the state is stoned, you kind of get in this place where people are just watching and vibing. I'm like, no, I need you to be crazy. So I was like, certain songs, they'd be like, when I knew like a big part of the song was coming up, I'm like, come on, let me hear it. And I'm like,
Hulk Hogan.
I literally was giving them the Hulk Hogan. I didn't even think about it. That's exactly what I was doing. But like during Paramore, I did like a high kick. And then there's a video that I posted on acronyms.jpg on Instagram where Taking Back Sundays Make Damn Sure is on, and I just start jumping, and I have like the camera in my hand. At one point, my diffusing shield on my flash flew off into the crowd.
Oh no!
I was rocking so hard, and the security guy handed it to me. I'm like, sorry. I lost my wallet. I was I was just going crazy. So it was a great time, and I know they're going to be doing 2 more in October. One is going to be here at the Magic Bag, and one is going to be in Grand Rapids. So hopefully I will be present for at least one or both of those.
Right.
But even if I'm not hired to do it again, like there's no way I'm not going.
Yeah.
Like I have to go again. Like that was a freaking blast, and
That's
just
awesome.
being around a bunch of people of all ages too. There were a couple people that have been messaging me since that are definitely like 18, 19 years old that were super hype, and they were just like, you were so much fun. And I'm just like, I have little fans now, and it's so cute.
You are now the elder emo.
I am now the elder
You have
emo.
Padawans.
I do. And it's like they're not going to realize it until they get to their 30s that I'm just a loser that like still is grisping onto my childhood with, you know, I just made up a word, grisping.
Grisping.
With all the music, but I have not grown up since I was 13 years old when it comes to my music taste. I like most of the things that you will see me photograph end up being like emo bands, or like I had applied for like Offspring for tonight. I don't know if that's even happening anymore, but like there's so many different ones that it's like if you look at what I've been photographing, it's like Taking Back Sunday or
Yeah.
Sad Summerfest, and I'm just like I'm very much in that side of things. So I absolutely loved hearing all those songs, and like if I could just go out and buy a CDJ, I would just do that at the Tangent or something. It would be so much fun.
Today's episode brought to you by Grisping.
Grisping. I don't know what it means. We'll figure it out somewhere between grasping, grifting. I don't know.
Well, we thank you guys for joining us once again for this week's Really Big Fan podcast, and encourage you to follow us on all the social media. We are on Threads. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. That's Twitter, TWITTER, just like Jeff Jarrett says it. And as always, we encourage you to join us over on Patreon, patreon.com/reallyBigFanPod, where for the $5 tier, not only can you get commercial-free versions of this show, you can get our special bonus show, the Really Big Fan Pod double feature, where me and Mike Pandoff are showing each other some of our favorite movies and figuring out where they place in a top 10 ranking. And hey, maybe you'll get a Clone Wars show pretty soon.
Yeah,
Who knows?
we'll see.
Maybe.
Here's another thing I just wanted to say before we get off the air today is that I am slowly going to be moving the old episodes that I have on the website at acronymiz.com/reallyBigFanPod into the Patreon. I don't want to move it all at once because I don't want you guys to be bombarded.
Just flood the thread.
Exactly. But I'm going to start adding those there and make our Patreon like the home base instead of that website page, because it seems like it just makes more sense to have it all in one spot.
Cool.
So keep that in mind. Check out our Patreon, check out back episodes, and enjoy yourself and be nerdy.
Yeah. Congratulations on the serotonin.
Woo!
We'll see you guys next week.